let me just play you the clip, and then we can discuss it at the end. Let me see if I can. I guess when we play it, I'll be able to see his name.
I'm going to break my own ground rule. Jimmy Dore keeps accusing me of taking money from NATO. He's insane. He's literally out of his mind, batshit crazy. Accusing people of things that you have no evidence of. I personally took $20 million from Jeffrey Katzenberg simply because I didn't immediately fall in line and say this is fantastic. I don't even want to discuss it. 100% support it. We can't have a discussion about anything else. We need to do this and let's move on. That's not a good faith person. Well, I think there are people who agree with him, right? And I'm interested in having a discussion with them, not interested in having a discussion with someone who has no evidence for anything and goes around, slinging mud and causing these ridiculous divisions within, a group of people who overwhelmingly agree with one another on these issues.
Right. And I think there's there's something bigger than just any one personality. I think it's that you have to be able to honestly assess who is on your side and who isn't. And frankly, I don't think it's that hard to figure out who's on your side and who isn't. In other words, it's pretty clear who the corporate Democrats are. It's pretty clear who the progressive supporters of Medicare for All are. By the way, a floor vote would help make that as clear as possible, I think, or at least more clear in the U.S. House of Representatives itself. But I think that, demonizing people that we all know are actually on the side of this fight, demonizing them because they may disagree or have different views about what the best strategy is, that is deeply counterproductive.
Yeah, so that video spurred a lot of conversation, and I'm just going to show you a little bit of it right here. Just taking you through how we got to this conversation. Oops, sorry. Sorry about that. So now let me take you to some of the reaction. I went too far back. Sorry about that. So here is some of the reaction. And then I add that there. So here's one. I would agree. It doesn't even matter if she takes money from NATO. She has the talking points of someone who takes money from NATO. So whether she takes the money or does it for free, what difference would it make? The results is the same either way. And then someone puts this here. It's is this one? Yeah. Is this in the thread? Yeah. Wow. Oh, this is off topic though, but hang on a second. Click on it. More replies. Hold on. All right, there we go. Sorry, I knew there was more. Anyway, so here we go. David Sirota is manufacturing consent, and it makes me sick. We have a difference, and what we see as people doing considered actions, and your comfort level allows you to keep putting off the fact that these people are doing nothing to change even their district's lives. It's sick. So I think I think you get the sentiment from sort of what the reaction to that first video. So let me pause here before I show you the next clip and how we got here to say that today we want to analyze the strategy divide between reformists, whom some of you may call PMCs, like professional managerial class. They've had the name reformists, boutique left, this sort of class, and sort of the more revolutionary leftists. So the strategy divide, which I saw in this content that I was watching on Jacobin. I was not necessarily trying to rehash force to vote, because that's not what we're going to do, but using force to vote to analyze how our strategies, we're not looking to do the same things. So that puts us on two different paths that may never be a coalition, even though there is overlapping issues. And I'll explain in just a moment here. So let's go now to one other thing I wanted to say. As I'm doing that, I'll bring up the next video here. So, oops. Okay, my daughter is gaming. She must be, my computer's moving slow. So let me show you the second clip. And for whatever reason, this is a more popular clip of the three that I posted. But let me set it up here or finish discussing what I have written down here. So just making sure I'm using this. So yeah, I can say this part. So the strategy divide may actually mean we can't have a coalition. We have to really understand what these two groups are looking for. One is looking for change through the already built apparatus. The other group is looking for change to change the apparatus. There's no way to have overlapping strategies with these two different goals. There's no way to have overlapping strategies with these two different goals. So what's up, Nick? Wow, he blocked me too. He blocked RBN too. Yeah, so we're all blocked. It's a challenge. It's challenge. You know, we're the Black Panthers. I'm sorry. Let me not say that. We would aspire to be the Black Panthers in that shot, in that scene where they show up to the California legislators. It's like RBN showed up to the leftist movement and said, "Hold on, there's been a lot of bad advice being given around this motherfucker, and it's time for us to stop this shit." And it's like they're closing their doors, shutting us off. They're shutting us off because they can't handle the conversation. They can't handle angry Black people in the town square who's saying, stop this milquetoast bullshit and start doing something that's really going to bring about change for the people at the very bottom. Because what I can say about their strategy of using this apparatus is using a corrupt apparatus means you're not going to be able to structurally change enough for the people at the very bottom. They even admit that. They even admit electoral politics is not going to bring. So you're basically saying you're doing electoral politics. That's not going to bring about any substantial change for the people who need it the most. That's a flawed strategy. So the title, what's the title of this? The realignment of the left. And it feels like this is a realignment. They're calling us crazy for wanting to team up with the working class, believe it or not. The spooky Trump supporters. The ones, where was that union? Amazon union in Trump country? So I guess none of those people who fought for that union ever thought about voting for Trump, don't have parents who voted for Trump, aren't conservative. They want to down talk that and call that crazy. But it's not crazy to keep beating the same dead horse, knowing that dead horse, even if you're able to resuscitate it, can't deliver for the very people at the bottom. That is just something we cannot right here. I was looking for that word. We cannot be this. We have to be militant. And I have a couple of clips to show here from Kashama. So we're basically, because anytime, so what I'm going to do is use academics to make RBN's point, to make my point. Because if I'm just saying it, a college dropout from Compton It's just that you know, the brown guy. He's just saying, yeah, just let him. But when you bring up academics that they all respect, that they've had, some of them had on their shows, making your point. So that's what we're going to be doing today. This is a realignment of the left. It's like they are detaching themselves from the left and what is the right word? They're and reattaching themselves to liberals. That's what it feels like. Being okay with NATO, being okay with the squad voting for funding of NATO, progressives, and then still saying, let's go ahead and support this group because they're our best shot. Our best shot is voting to fund NATO. Nick, did you hear me, Nick? Our best shot that the PMC class keeps telling us is our best shot, the professional managerial class keep telling us our best shot, they just voted for NATO. This is a serious conversation. So let me play this video. I'm pretty not even keeping my schedule here, but let me I didn't even think of that before to have that written down. So let's listen to this clip. Yeah, just listen. Now this one is the one that surpassed the first one. This had, the first one had like 3,000 views ahead, and for some reason this one has surpassed. Maybe what he says. Let's listen.
Example. Okay. AOC, if AOC does not, and the squad does not use their leverage to force a floor vote or try to force a floor vote, I'm not prepared to say that means that they don't believe in Medicare for all or that they're sellouts. I'm not prepared to. The evidence is overwhelmingly against that they may disagree with the tactic, and I may disagree with them for their position on the tactic on not forcing a Medicare for all vote. But I'm not willing to say, nor do I believe that means that they don't want to pass Medicare for all or aren't willing to fight as hard as possible for Medicare for all. It could just be that they have a different theory of change. And when you take a strategic...
So I'm going to replay this part and make my point. So let's hear it again.
For their position on the tactic on not forcing a Medicare for all vote. But I'm not willing to say, nor do I believe that means that they don't want to pass Medicare for all or aren't willing to fight as hard as possible for Medicare for all.
So a tactic that would immediately, as far as time-wise, at least get the bill in the public square by way of being on the floor. Now I must say he is sort of for force the vote. So he's sort of for it, but just not as forcefully as some of us are.
For their position on the tactic on not forcing a Medicare for all vote. But I'm not willing to say, nor do I believe that means that they don't.
So this is the point I was going to make. I needed to hear him say this again. It's like, it's not like if we were all throwing the squad out based only on force the vote, I can see you having a point of, why are we saying they're co-opted, they're this, they are that. And I'm not willing to go there is basically what he's saying. But if you're only talking about this one thing, the conclusion has been reached that they have sort of been sold out, bought out, or they have sold out, is because of a multitude of things that has happened, not one singular thing. So let's let him finish his point.
Don't want to pass Medicare for all or aren't willing to fight as hard as possible for Medicare for all. It could just be that they have a different theory of change. And when you take a strategic...
it could be they just have a different theory of change. A different theory of change. If you and I are in a burning house and it takes both of us to get out of this situation, and your theory is that is to use a kid's water gun, you see how your theory of change is problematic for me? This strategy is not meeting the moment. Just like Joe Biden is the president that's not meeting this moment of the pandemic, of war, of evictions, of the poor, of inflation, how he's not meeting the moment. The strategy of using the Democratic Party after all of this is not meeting the moment. And therein lies the problem. The strategy of being this sort of technical sort of Democrat, this technical sort of person. Well, let's get this committee seat and let's do this. We don't have time for that. Because that strategy is literally a 30-year strategy. Because it's not going to take seriously more than one person getting a committee chair, somebody doing this. It takes way more than that. So the strategy, I'm going to keep saying this, the strategy, this electoral strategy that you're trying to implore, and I'm saying you as in the PMC, which David Sirota represents, it's not meeting the moment. We're going to need something better than this. So let me now, did I finish? Oh, let me let him finish talking.
Difference and try to broaden it to be a difference of values. If you don't have evidence that is rational and logical to do that, what you're doing is you're undermining people who are really on your side and who are trying to do the right thing.
Are they really on our side if they're voting to increase NATO? Are they really on our side if they're voting to increase police funding? Or is it just they're on our side on certain things and certain things just, whatever? So let's get to the main, or one of the main videos. Let me find it. Yeah. Okay, yeah. So a lot of backup. So I do have a lot of reference videos. So we'll start here, but once I have to make another point, I'll go ahead and switch that up and then come back to this video. So this is the video that started it all, where I got the clip from. I'm just because this is one I
before you spend a bunch of money on cookware, let me tell you.
This is one I just had not come across. I thought I had searched Jacobin for David Sirota before, and I thought I saw all the content, and then I saw this today popped up. And so I wanted to check this out. So now I'm going to fast forward it to when David shows up. And we're going to listen to maybe 15 minutes of the conversation and kind of rebut a couple of things here. So that's where we're going to get started here. What is it? 56. Let me see if it's showing here. Make sure everything is set up before we start the video. 56. Where are we? Okay, right there. We start here. This is close enough. So let's begin here, and I'll stop it when I'm ready to interject.
And since we're having a discussion about power and what we can do, I think it's important to bring David Sirota in now, who's been discussing strategy, debating strategy about what progressives can do to win all week. I'm sure you're exhausted by this conversation, David, but thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So, look, I want to, I think, set some ground rules because I really want to have a substantive discussion and not make this about any type of personalities. And so this is specifically about strategy and what we can do to use whatever leverage progressive lawmakers have in the House to get things done. And so there has been a proposal to hold the vote for Nancy Pelosi as Speaker of the House. And unless she agrees to taking Medicare for All to a floor vote, then progressive lawmakers should avoid voting for her. And so that's a little bit of.
So let me make sure. I want to say it again. This is not to really focus on force the vote and rehash that. This is really about the strategy of being adversarial, militant, and being milquetoast. That's really what I'm wanting to address in the two camps, the reformist camp, which I would put PMC's professional managerial class, the boutique left, the Brahmin left, which is So anyway, I won't go into that.
Little bit of leverage that progressive lawmakers have, and there's been a big debate all week about whether or not that strategy makes a lot of sense. And so, David, I really appreciated your piece in, the Daily Poster, where you provided some specific, nuanced examples of other things that progressive.
So let me just say this: David is obviously for the strategy. That's the vibe I got from watching it. The dynamic between the two, between Anna, and both of them know that, and they're both trying to delicately talk about certain parts of this. And David stretches the definition of things to not offend Anna so much about force to vote. And when we get there, I'll explain.
Progressives can do in addition to a Medicare for All floor vote. So do you want to just quickly talk about what those options are?
Sure. I think there's a lot of things that the House Democrats could try to do if they wanted to, and to leverage that vote for Nancy Pelosi. For instance, they don't have to just ask for a vote on Medicare for All. They could ask for a vote on 2 or 3 or 4 bills that are in Congress that deal with the same issue. For instance, Ro Khanna has an existing bill to allow states to help states do their own single-payer Medicare for All programs. And if you know the history of Medicare for All in, for instance, a place like Canada, you know that it started at the provincial level. So actually passing something that empowers the states to take action is historically has been helpful. It engages state legislators. We don't actually know where members of Congress really are on that issue. And we have an HHS secretary, or an incoming HHS secretary, who has said he actually supports doing that kind of thing. So getting folks on record on an issue like that, in addition to a Medicare for All floor vote, is something that you can ask for. You can ask the Democrats and Pelosi and the Democratic leadership to put a letter together, an initiative together, to tell Joe Biden to use the existing executive authority that he will have to expand Medicare in the middle of this pandemic. We haven't seen any organizing around that. I mean, the incredible thing to me, which is sort of sad, is that there's sort of this idea out there that Joe Biden won the election, therefore that's over. So whatever Joe Biden does is fine, and can't really fight it or pressure him, and that we have to focus only for now on what's going on, for instance, in the U.S. House. It sort of gives a pass to Joe Biden, as opposed to saying Joe Biden actually will have the power with the stroke of a pen to expand Medicare if he wanted to. Why hasn't there been any organizing around that? Why haven't the House Democrats, the Democrats in Congress, moved aggressively to put the pressure on him to do that? So that's another thing. The other thing that can be done right now, which is directly right in the House, which I know some people roll their eyes at because it's I guess technical or wonky. I don't particularly think it is to replace the chair of the House Ways and Means Committee with somebody.
Yes, that's because it is technical. This is what I mean. This sort of these tactics of these technical moves, getting on a committee seat. That's literally a strategy of decades to accomplish anything. You think one person is going to get a committee seat and everything changes? No, it's going to take a lot of committee seats by the same type of people unbought. I mean, I just don't understand. Anyway, I'll reserve. Let's let him say some more, and then I'm going to speak on it.
Somebody right now, it's somebody who opposes Medicare for all and put in a Medicare for all supporter. And that's not a small thing. That's a huge thing. If you know the history of Medicare itself, you would know how important.
This is where this is where the friction comes in. Is that we have a segment of people who are left where none of these sort of policy issues matters. Whether the legislation for any of these policy issues doesn't make a difference for them. So what I'm saying is they have health care. So whether Medicare for all is passed or not now doesn't make a difference. $15 minimum wage. He's a millionaire. So waiting on that for a committee assignment, like we have two diverging sort of goals or timetables. Maybe that's a better way of saying it. They have a longer timetable for these things that people who are living through the harsher conditions of capitalism, those people, you tell them, go do all this work and then come out and vote just to get a committee assignment. What the fuck? What does that do for me? Well, in 2 years, we'll be able to, what? You see the problem? How can those two different ideologies strategize together? Where they're literally on a 30-year mortgage and we're on a month to month. How was that? So let's listen to some more.
Important it is to have a Ways and Means Committee chairperson, because that's the committee that oversees the legislation. You would know how important it is to have a Medicare for all supporter in that.
And let me also talk about more of the realignment part right here, because what I mean by realigning is that you're having a lot of consciousness on the left being turned up. You have a lot of people who were democratic socialists who are now a lot further left than that. I can remember a lot of us claiming democratic socialists like 2 years ago. Maybe it was more than 2 years ago. So there's that sort of like far left, and it's based off conditions not getting better. Then you have sort of like who the new Democratic Party is, which is rich liberals whose goals are completely different than a poor worker. Completely different. The timetable they have is completely different. So you're seeing a sort of Overton window shift where you have these same leftists, these PMC class, they're also fine with a little bit of imperialism, just a little bit. So there's that shift. And it happens to be some of the same people. They're rationalizing NATO. They're rationalizing war. So that's, to me, is the realigning. It's almost like they're being baked into the middle, sort of joining an involuntary coalition with liberals, with the the Ukraine flag liberals. Think about it. The Ro Khanna's, he's a Justice Democrat. He's progressive. He's supposed to be a progressive. You hear what he said about Pelosi taking a trip to Taiwan? So there's a realigning on the left that's happening. And you all, yeah, and we also kind of saw it, or we also kind of discussed it with me and Nick with Catherine Liu. It was sort of on this topic of there's a splitting where, of people who call themselves lefts, who are saying maybe the working class is not the vehicle we're going to use to get change, because they're not necessarily part of the working class. And the things that the working class want may not be necessarily the things they want. So we're having this split. So let's listen to a little bit more here, and then there's a couple of more clips I'm going to interject and then come back here.
That job. The New Yorker did a longer piece about this, I think it was 2 or 3 years ago, about how Ways and Means Committee Chairman Wilbur Mills, back in the 60s, ended up holding up Medicare singularly for years until he was pressured and convinced to move off that. So there's been those are some ideas, and the problem that I've had with some of the discussion here is that these are ideas to say, yes, a Medicare for all vote would be important, but we need to actually ask for more in order to expect to get anything. That what we have learned over and over again from Congress is that if you don't ask for a whole loaf, you probably won't get you won't get a crumb. If you ask for a crumb, you'll get nothing. So in asking for only,
so he's saying you should ask for more. I think I'm hearing here
one thing that is important, but doesn't really put Nancy Pelosi necessarily in a position where she really doesn't want to have to do something. If you don't ask for that, then it's not clear you're going to get much of anything. And the thing that's been disturbing is that even just saying that, which I think is a logical, earnest, honest kind of statement, even saying that has generated recriminations of, oh, people are selling out, people are corrupt, people are trying to help the Democrats.
It's like he's erasing the history. It's like this is the umpteenth time your constituency, as far as ideological constituency, is saying, hey, do this, do that, or what about this, or what about that, and you don't do it. So this is after many disappointments, not one, many.
Democratic establishment. And the problem is that we need to be able to discuss issues of tactics and strategy without it devolving into, if you disagree with me on strategy, or not even if you disagree with me, if you want to add something to the strategy, that must mean you are an evil, corrupt, self-dealing establishment.
You see how his writing skills came in there? He was very descriptive, right? That's his pain being shown there.
And that is not helpful to anyone. It is not helpful to the movement. It is not helpful to the potential, hopefully, the outcome of actually guaranteeing healthcare to all, an outcome that lots of us have been working for decades on.
Yeah, and Nando, sorry, I wanted to just add one quick thing to it, because
so Nando is his name. I'm not sure if I said it right earlier.
David mentioned the House Ways and Means Committee, and I agree with you. Out of all of the different, kind of proposals you had in your piece, that was the one that appealed to me the most, because the chair of the House Ways and Means Committee is Richie Neal, who is awful, absolutely awful, and has successfully defeated efforts to end surprise medical billing. He's very much in cahoots with the private healthcare industry, and getting rid of him or shifting the power away from a corporate Democrat and to, you know, an actual progressive is really important in that committee. I agree with you. I don't think that's wonky at all. And it actually,
and let's be clear, I want to just make one point about that. One additional point. That is something that Nancy Pelosi could like literally do. Like she could do that today, like now. Like if she woke up today and was like, I don't want Richard Neal to be the chairman of the Ways and Means Committee, that could happen like right now with her essentially singularly. So that's an ask, a demand that she could actually deliver on herself. She can't even, essentially, I mean, sort of, for the most part, she can't even really say, well, look, I got to get this member or that member to agree to it. She is literally running for speaker. The job of the speaker is to appoint the chair. So that's an ask that's actually even more singularly to Nancy Pelosi than any ask.
And well, I want to ask you, David, because I'm meaning to ask you something about this, because a lot of the focus has been on AOC and her whatever parliamentary kind of maneuver she decides to do on this. I want to ask, because on the one hand, there's this push to get her to maybe withhold her vote against Pelosi to get these concessions, while at the same time there was just the news broke yesterday that there was.
I would like to just reiterate the whole thing we were sold on this whole Justice Democrat inside game strategy was that these people were going to be the Tea Party of the left, be going there and be adversarial. And people expect them to be adversarial. And when they don't, they get criticized. And it's a problem. It's a problem that we have the expectation that they told us from the beginning of this strategy.
There was like a secret meeting in which they kind of excluded her from the Energy and Commerce Committee. It's all very kind of like inside the Capitol, and it's something that I don't understand that well. And I just wanted to ask you, like, how much power can AOC like credibly threaten Pelosi's speakership? And what did you make of this kind of maneuver on the Energy and Commerce Committee?
Look, I think that the who becomes speaker is ultimately, there is a full vote of the House, and each party votes for their potential speaker candidate. Typically what happens is that each party first has a meeting of their committee or their conference, and they have an internal election. Frankly, it's not binding. The only binding election is the actual official House vote, but they have a non-binding intra-party election to say, here's who is our speaker designate that we'll put on the floor to vote on. And so in theory, if enough Democrats withheld their vote for speaker, for their own party's speaker designate, then neither party would have a majority necessary to elect a House speaker. And things can get haywire at that point. I lived in Montana as one example. I lived in Montana where this very kind of thing happened. And what ended up happening was you had a Democratic House majority in Montana with a Republican speaker. Now, I'm not saying that's going to happen here.
Right. So why are you saying it? Why are you giving an example that doesn't fit here? What is the purpose of that? Anybody in the comments? What's the purpose of that? What's the purpose of you giving an example saying what we ended up with as a Democratic legislator and a Republican, I forget whatever it was going to say, leader? I'm not saying that's going to happen, because it's not. And I do have another video where he went on Jimmy Dore, and this very thing about Kevin McCarthy came up. Trying to keep the illusion that Kevin McCarthy could have possibly gotten that seat, which is ridiculous. So if I have time, I'll show that video. But let's finish this one.
But what I'm saying is that things can get pretty chaotic and dicey. And that is real leverage that progressives in the House have. And
they have real leverage. Has anyone, I know somebody have said this before, why can't the squad, progressives, Ro Khanna, use the same leverage that Joe Manchin uses? What is the difference? Is it that he's using his for good? Is the allowed to do it because that's what they actually want to have happen? And the squad is not allowed to do it because then it would have to go left. This is the ratchet. Let's continue.
And I think it's been important to underscore that leverage exists and it can be used. That has been a very important and good thing that has been underscored today.
It just doesn't make any sense that they have this leverage and they're not using it unless they're scared. And it goes back to the question I just asked. How come Joe Manchin is not scared unless that's part of the whole game? If the fear can be put into AOC and all these other people, how come the fear can't be put into Joe Manchin? Unless Joe Manchin is executing exactly what the Democratic Party wants to have happen, because they're controlled by the same donors that the Republicans are controlled by. So anybody just tuning in who says, yeah, Republicans and Democrats, they're very, let me explain to you. So we're going to just cut, stop the topic here. They are being funded by the same people. So let me give you an example. I've used this many times. Let's say I'm Pfizer. I'm the company Pfizer. I'm ready to give out money. I have an economic plan. I want to push through this legislation that's going to benefit me, Pfizer. I'm donating to the Republicans and Democrats. Is my plan from Pfizer different whether a Republican or a Democrat is in office? Does that change Pfizer's plan? No. So whether a Republican or a Democrat is in office, they're executing the same plan, the singular plan of Pfizer.